So if you are a property investor, then this video is probably for you, whether you're looking to start in your early stages or whether you're looking to scale up and grow from your buy-to-lets, your standard flips, up into something more substantial, then this is probably a useful video for you. And that is because I want to talk a little bit around strategy. So your strategy is basically the direction in which you go in, like the map that you follow in to get to your goals. And if you don't have a strategy, then that's probably a problem in itself. And if you have like a vague or sort of rough strategy, then I think that might also be a problem too. And I'm going to tell you why today. So strategy is like I said at the beginning, is something that we need to follow. We need a roadmap. We need to understand what direction we're going and why we're going in that direction. And that's really, really important, because if we don't know where we're going, how on earth are we going to aim for something? How on earth are we going to focus on heading in a specific direction, achieving those specific goals, moving towards the life in which we actually want? So getting that kind of like dream outcome in mind, whatever that might be, whether that's a cash flowing portfolio, whether that's having your time back, whether that's building generational wealth, providing for your family, for your partner, your kids, future generations, all of that falls under like what direction you want to go with your property strategy. And I think if you don't have one, then you're just shooting in the dark. You know, your field of vision is too wide, and you're not going to get anywhere near any goals. You know, you'll have a scattergun type approach, and ultimately you'll move slowly in the direction of a bunch of things that you're thinking about, rather than having a single kind of myopic focus which moves you from place A to place B. And that might be a step that takes a day, a week, a month, a year, or 10 years. You know, all of those things, you have to have a vision for these things. And if you don't have that vision, then you're really, really going to struggle. So as part of your property strategy, I think you need to be thinking about a bunch of different things. But ultimately, the first main thing to think about is the end goal. The end goal isn't somewhere guaranteed, somewhere where you're definitely heading, but it should be a direction of travel, somewhere where you're moving from where you're currently at, which might be, you know, I've done some flips, you might have done some buy-to-lets or some buy, refurbish, refinance. You might have a small portfolio, you might have a couple of deals or a couple of projects in your portfolio, but you want to go somewhere different. Or potentially you haven't started yet, you know, and you're looking to build a portfolio. You know, you've got some cash, or you're able to get hold of some cash, or we are able to raise some finance, some cash with you. But ultimately that will get you from where you're currently at to where you want to go. And that might be a single buy-to-let or multiple buy-to-lets. That might be a development company where you're flipping properties regularly and making, you know, 50 to 100 grand chunks every time you flip a property. It might be moving into the commercial space and having commercial assets or multi-unit assets, or a mixed-use portfolio. Any of those things are achievable. You know, if anybody else has done it who comes from the same sort of position and background as you, and they've proven to themselves and to the world that it is possible, then there's absolutely no reason that you can't do it also. So all it is getting that strategy really, really clear. And to do that, we want to think about what we want to be buying, where we want to be buying, the types of assets we want to buy in, the tenant types or the client types if we're selling assets that we want to be working for and with, the people we surround ourselves with. So whether this estate agents, brokers, valuers, other people in the property investment network, all of those people are really, really important. And they need to be directed towards the goals in which you're aiming for, the direction in which you want to go. So if that is, like I said, building out a big portfolio, then you need to be focusing around estate agents, management agents, having good tenant types in good areas where properties remain in good condition for long periods of time. They let for usually medium to long term. We don't necessarily want short-term stuff unless you're looking at an SA route, which is not my bag, so I can't help you with that. But ultimately, we need to know what the people we're spending our time with, where they're going to get us. And that will help sort of align our strategy. Also, the other things that we need to think about in our strategy and like as part of our roadmap is our cash, or available cash, whether that's our cash or somebody else's cash, what we can leverage in terms of banks money, so that's external investors or private lenders or public lenders, banks, etc., what they're willing to lend you based on your personal credit profile, based on where you're going, based on the asset types you want to buy, based on your deposit, all of those sorts of things. It's very, very bespoke. There's a lot of detail in there, but yeah, the finance position is really, really important. And also we need to map this out over a period of time. So like having like a long-term goal and trying to achieve that in 12 months, it might be possible, and it is really, really good to kind of like to push yourself and shorten those time horizons, because we can do a lot more than we think in the time that we have. But ultimately, we need to map these things out over periods of time. So we want to see what our 10 or 15-year goal is, or even our lifetime goal. You know, I've spent a lot of time in the past planning out legacy, you know, past me, things that happen after I'm no longer here. And I think it's really, really good to think that far out. But it's also, like I said at the beginning, just a direction of travel, and it's not necessarily going to be exactly where we end up. It's just direction of travel. So we want to think about that long-term goal, but we also want to pull it back from there. If we're thinking about 20, 30 years out, then let's pull it back to 10 years. What does life look like then? Then we'll pull it back 5 years. What does life look like then? Then 3 years, 1 year. And then even when you get to the 1 year period, I think like having annual goals is really important, because you can have a review of them annually or biannually, or probably even every quarter if you can dedicate the time to doing that. But ultimately, we want to break those goals down all the way back to daily goals, which then become actions. And I think actions as part of your strategy are something that actually moves you towards those 10, 15 year, 20 goals. So if you're thinking about like today, whatever this action is, whatever this daily habit is that I'm doing, whether that's, you know, calling up estate agents every single day, looking for assets on or off market every single day, whether it's saving a certain amount so you can invest in your portfolio, whether it's raising capital, whatever you're thinking about as your daily action, that should lead to your short, medium, and longer term goals. So if you're doing something today as a task or habit that doesn't move you closer towards your goals, then it's somewhat irrelevant. It's somewhat like a pointless task. If you love it, you know, if you love cooking and you have no interest in like becoming a chef or building like some sort of cooking, I don't know, enterprise or anything like that, then do it. You know, you have to do the things you love, and it's really important to do the things you love. But separate to that, you should have things that you want to focus on and goals, whether that's your career, whether that's your investment portfolio, whether it's building out a lifestyle type that you want, any of those things. These should be your goals, and your primary tasks should be focused around those goals. So like for me, first thing in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I get up, I write down what I'm doing for the day, I read for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'm moving into my tasks immediately. And those tasks are prioritized based on how important and how urgent they are. Got a picture up on this board with a matrix. I'll show you on another video the matrix of what's urgent and what's important. But ultimately, we want to be working on the most urgent and most important tasks for us, moving us closer to those goals as part of our strategy. So I think strategy is something that we often forget about, or we use it as like a grey thing that like, oh, we're going to buy property and we're going to head in this direction. That's not enough. Just knowing that you're going to buy property. You need to know what property you're going to buy, where you're going to buy it, how much you've got to spend, how much you've got to leverage, how that breaks down into like daily actions and weekly and monthly actions. Property's a long game. It's not something that you can do a daily action once or even 5 or 10 times and have a result. It's more so repeated actions every single day for years and years and years on end, and ultimately you'll get to a place where you want, or pretty much where you want to go. It's surprising how much like writing down your goals, having a strategy, having a clear plan will move you in the direction in which you want to go. I've got my monitor is propped up by a bunch of books. Each of those books represent a year, the last year of my life, little tiny black notebooks. And in those black notebooks, every single year, twice yearly now actually, I write out my goals, I write out the plan, I write out if I'm on track for those goals, why I'm moving towards those goals, how they relate to last year's goals, and how they feed into the longer term bigger picture for my 10, 15, 20 year goals. All of those things, once they've been written down, they're in your brain, they're locked in your brain. I don't want to get into like wishy-washy manifestation, but there is an element of like attracting the things that you write down and attracting the things that you truly believe in. So we have to have this strategy. I'm spinning off into a long direction there, but ultimately we have to have this strategy that will pick us up from where we're at and move us in a direction of something that we actually want. And if we don't do that intentionally, then it'll lead us to a place where the world chooses for us, whether that's our friends, our family, our boss, whatever it is. The world will choose our direction of travel. So you have to be intentional about what goals you take. You have to be intentional about your strategy and the direction in which you're moving. And if you need to do all of those things, then spend a little bit of time writing, like thinking, giving yourself headspace away from other distractions. Take a pen and paper, write down your goals. I've got a goals matrix as well, which I can share with you guys. Just drop me a message and I'll send that over. And you can write out a plan. You can know exactly where you're going, why you're going there, and how you're going to get there in terms of actions. So that is probably, if you're unsure where to go with your strategy, your property strategy, that's probably somewhere where I would start, getting really, really clear on outcomes and then working backwards from there. Obviously, help you guys out with this as much as you need. Just drop me a message on Instagram and I can give you a steer. But yeah, ultimately, getting your strategy really clear is so, so important. So spend some time on it. Make your life goals really important to you, really relevant to you, and lock them in your brain. In fact, mine are up on the wall behind my laptop, so I can see them every single day. And I know that if I can look at that, and that reminds me what direction I'm going every single day, then it's unlikely that I'm going to detract from that too much. Hope that was really helpful, guys. If you've got any questions or any messages, just ask me on Instagram. You know exactly where I am on there, and I'll tag it below as well. And yeah, good luck building out your strategies.